And welcome to day 3, Startup Con Live. I'm Frank Clark, and I'm here with Lori Webb and Noah Rosenberg. Lori is going to introduce Noah in a moment, but I just want to say welcome to everybody who's joining us for day 3. The theme for today is Launch It, and we want to thank everybody who's been with us through all 3 days, either live or watching the replay on these videos. And I'm going to exit out here and turn it over to Lori. Thanks, guys.
Frank, where's my intro, buddy?
Oh, your intro. So Lori,
Frank's in a hurry.
Lori and I met just 2 weeks ago, really, in preparation for this conference online on Blab. We've never met in person. Lori's in Copenhagen, and Lori has done some absolutely brilliant things, including she put together and managed a similar event, but a much more ambitious event just last month called The Big Blab, 168 hours of continuous round-the-globe 24/7 blabbing. She's also written 3 best-selling books, and on top of that, has interviewed more than 300 successful entrepreneurs from around the world and thought leaders, and has got another 13 books waiting on her shelf to go. So you're in very capable hands with Lori, and at this point, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Frank. Oh, thanks for the kind words, Frank.
My pleasure. All right, enjoy. Nice meeting you, Noah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Frank. And seriously, it's a pleasure and honor to be sitting here with Noah Rosenberg. I just found out about him literally 3 days ago, 4 days ago.
Oh, wow.
It can't be more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an article about you. I believe it was TechCrunch.
Yeah, well, you just said that. Yeah, that was Friday.
Yeah. Okay. So I saw it Friday, or I didn't see it Friday, but I saw it during the weekend.
Yeah.
And download the app immediately. I'm a little app happy, so I check out things, and I was amazed. I thought, oh, this is new. I love it. It's interesting. Let me see if I can get one of the founders in for Startup Con. I think it would be very relevant, and the Blab community is very social media savvy and interested in things and ways to kind of tweak what they're able to do with their social media. And I think Picasso app is a great opportunity to really differentiate yourself in the marketplace by, leveraging a different kind of picture. I mean, the picture that I tweeted out yesterday of myself in total cubist form, it looks different than most of the other tweets that go out with pictures, or even, with filtered pictures. So It's cool. Wicked cool.
Yeah, and my kind of feeling on that is, before I was doing this, I was working, doing a lot of different stuff, but I was working with a camera bag company, and we had some of the best photographers in the world as sort of on the team. And like the photographer awards, would happen, and these people would win them. So like literally best photographer, whatever that means.
Right.
And so I started following them all on Instagram, and I'd go through my feed and I'd see, a shot of a skydiver jumping off of a helicopter, and it's the most gorgeous shot you've ever seen, and I just zoomed past it. Yeah. And I started to realize how we're becoming so, overwhelmed by amazing things and beautiful things. But at the same time, as somebody who's trying to get a following on social, or somebody who's trying to express themselves to the world a little bit, it's kind of a challenge, because here your image of your lunch is sitting there in the same feed next to the world's best photographer. And what can that mean? And what's interesting about Picasso is anybody can just have a thought and say, hey, I'm going to go and look up some artwork that speaks to me, and I'm going to, run my selfie through that. And it becomes kind of a speed bump in your feed, like you're talking about. It, everybody who looks at it kind of stops for. They may not tap on it or like it every time, but I've found I get more likes off of a Picasso than a regular portrait. Yeah. But also just that idea that people have to stop and kind of deal with the image and go, what's going on here, and what were the choices that were made? Versus Instagram, it's a little harder to say, oh, well, I wonder why they made that picture a little bit more blue. With a regular filter. But in this case, it's like, oh, I wonder if, Lori, does she have an interest in cubism? Or it's Kandinsky's birthday. Did she want to do her portrait like that? Or just, how's she feeling today? Yeah. And how can the portrait do that? So
great. Now we're going to dial it back a little bit, because for people who have never seen you before, and we're saying Picasso, but what we're talking about is the app Picasso, Pikazo, as opposed to the man's name.
Yeah.
Also for the people who are listening to the recording, because they might get a little confused. So Noah, you and your partner, can you give us some backstory? Because I'm calling this, it's launch talk, and for the first half of the session, I'm talking to you, and we're covering kind of two things in one: the art and the science of launching with Picasso, because it is actually art and science mixed together to create the app.
Yeah.
So can you give us a little backstory on you? Well, you told us a little bit why, like kind of what was your why behind wanting to start it, but you're a designer and your partner is a scientist guy.
Right. Well, he's an image scientist. So my background, I went to art school, and I worked in advertising for a long time as an art director, creative director, and then I got into startups and ran my own ad agency, and then started to have an interest in product. Instead of doing it for other people, I wanted to make something. And so I've spent the last year and a half kind of looking for what that was, and I had developed another product kind of similar to Blab. It was sort of a Q&A product. Did we lose you there?
I think I disappeared. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. So
I went to Star.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. There you
All
go.
right.
You were in space for a second.
I hit the Picasso app link accidentally.
So, I'll just kind of shortcut it. So Carl had a background in visual effects, and he was kind of in a similar place looking for something to work on. And he had been involved in a lot of programmatic effects. So things where you sort of can write a program and have a lot of parameters, what he calls specified programming. And rather than saying like, I want this to be, change the RGB value +2, which is kind of what a Photoshop filter does. Right. He was always interested in saying, how can I make this a little bit more exciting, right? Or how can I make this have a different feeling, or how can I make this dirtier? So using real adjectives instead of using programmatic language. And he had developed a system in 2000 to do this, but the computers just were not fast enough. So fast forward to earlier this summer, an engineer at Google in their spare time was working on image recognition. So Google's interest is like, they want to see you and know what brand of headphones you have. And then they're going to make determinations about you and know what ads to show you, right? So they want to know information about images. So somebody that works for Google was working on that and said, hey, as long as I'm in here and I'm seeing how to match these headphones, what if everywhere that I recognize a part of this picture as headphones, if I stamp it down with my source library picture? Does that make sense?
Right.
So they kind of had a little picture of headphones, and they were like, where in this picture matches? And started stamping it down, if that makes any sense. And the result was this thing called Deep Dream.
Right.
And I think the genius there was that they sort of pitched that as the story was, what does it look like when a computer's dreaming? Well, so we're all obsessed with this idea of consciousness and computers and all that. Anyway, so that happened this summer. So that kind of woke Carl up to this. And he started watching out a bunch of other research, and project came out of Germany that showed, hey, we think it's possible to combine artistic style with a subject. And that's what led to Picasso.
Cool. So cool. Yes. And so now Picasso is not filters, as we mentioned. It is a reconfiguration of some sorts.
Yeah. So what it does is it looks at your source picture. So maybe that's your selfie, and it tries to characterize what is the story of that picture. So you could call that global terms. What's really going on in the picture? What are the bigger shapes? And then it looks at your style picture, and it tries to understand the vocabulary of your style picture. So it'll break down the style picture into almost language elements. It says, what do I have to work with here? What vocabulary am I going to have to retell the story? So it kind of breaks down the brushstrokes, both their angle, their quality, their color. And then it retells the story of the first picture in the language of the second. So it recombines those bits and pieces it got out of your style. Right. And interprets. And recreates the picture and interprets. And this is a little heady when you think about it, but you're not in that second picture. You're not in your Picasso anymore. But yet you recognize yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's nothing from your first picture that's left. And you have to start really kind of asking what's going on in your head that makes you recognize you in that.
Right.
Why do we agree that that is still a picture of you? And it just turns out that since this is a model of the visual cortex, if you just follow that model and create these images, it results in something that not only do we agree still looks like you, but is satisfying.
Right.
It's really just a total coincidence. It's a model of the visual cortex, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But for a lot of people, they see it and they go, "What are you talking about? That's just a painting of me now."
Yeah.
Because it happens at such an intuitive level.
Here's another funny thing, or it's not a funny thing at all. It's a practical thing. Here's the procedure. I'm going to do the procedure. Then we're going to go back to the launch, like really focusing on the launch it aspect, like the meat and potatoes of the talk. And that is, if you download Picasso and you take a picture and then you click on the picture and then you choose your style, and it takes 10 minutes to process. When you get that picture taken, I mean, when that picture comes out, you paint it. You're calling it paint it. And when it gets processed, then you can't, even if I go back and I do the Cubist picture, the Cubist rendering of that same picture, it will not come out the same.
If all conditions are the same, it would come out the same.
Right.
But if you alter any of the things at all, it's completely different. So even if you just crop the picture the tiniest bit, it's completely different. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is because when I was pitching this to people, I was saying, and here's the thing is that you're just not going to have the same picture. Like people, it's unique. And that's what makes it also probably the closest app to actual art, because it's original is what I mean. It's the originality aspect.
And your interpretation, even if we both take the same style, you're still adding your ingredient to it. So it always ends up with something random. It's not like we're all using the Hefe filter in Instagram.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's something for people to understand about the app and also the science art aspect of it.
Yeah, and we ship with a couple sort of serving suggestions, but you don't need to use those. So you can go into the custom section, and where a lot of people have found where the art really sort of lives is in this combination of content and style. So somebody did a portrait of Dexter, from the TV show Out of Blood, which was like, okay, I get it. They did Harry Houdini out of chains. So it was just a pile of chains that end up looking like Harry Houdini. And it tells the story of what he did in a way that no other art form could.
So they're taking a custom picture of chains, taking a picture of so the picture is Houdini. The style is a custom picture that they've gone and taken. So if I take a picture of my microphone up close and then take that same picture, I would come out as a metallic microphone-esque Laurie.
Metallic, cybernetic, grid-looking Laurie, yeah.
I think I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm like, wait, cool. Yeah. Okay, we have some questions.
You can do your lunch. Yeah, go ahead.
It says, as a creative, this is on my phone and I don't have my glasses on. As a creative, am I restricted with selling my work if I have used Picasso? Oh, I see.
Okay, so that's a great question. And
it is.
What tends to happen here is that the act of modifying it doesn't destroy the original copyright holder's license to that. So if your question is, if you Picasso'd yourself with Mickey Mouse, could you sell that? And you wouldn't own that any more than whoa, I don't know what's going on there.
It's crazy. A gift. That's amazing. That's a nice gift.
A morph of portraits. So nice. Picasso doesn't, remove the copyright holding from the original creator. If you created the style artwork yourself and you took the photo yourself, you own it. We don't own it.
Right.
So you can use it as a tool to create your own artwork, but to modify, for instance, a current artist's work in a Picasso and then claim that as your own. I think as we learned with the Shepard Fairey case, that copyright transfers through the change. It's fair use, right? So you're allowed to create that image, and the original artist doesn't own your copyright. However, you don't own the artist's copyright.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Thank you, Ola. The next question is actually, could I do this with my product line? Renee, what do you mean specifically? I mean, you can Picasso any picture. You could take a picture of, I could take a picture of the microphone and then Picasso it into a Rembrandt if I wanted. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely.
So is that what you mean? Or do Renee, can you specify a little bit more? Okay. Yes. If I use my own image, Illumination says, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If you use both your own images, it's your result. It's your outcome.
Yeah. Okay. So now back to the meat and the potatoes of this. And that is, so you guys got this idea. How long did it take you to get going? You had this dream. How long did it take you to build and launch it?
So the story's slightly convoluted, but Carl had first started playing with this in September. Mm-hmm. And he did a series on the presidents where he repainted each president. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
And that ran in Washington Post. And he said, hey, I think there's something here. And then he was doing that all in the command line. So these guys in Germany have theorized it. And then another group had done some work to turn it into an app. And then Carl had done some work to extend that into a thing that could be used repeatably. And did a lot of work on image quality. Mm-hmm. And then, so those were all sort of open source projects that got wrapped. And then he mm-hmm. built a server back end and the app front end to it. And that all happened in about a month. Mm-hmm. And I was working on my own app at the time, and I'm more of a front end guy. So he saw that and he's like, hey, why don't you do my front end and I'll do the back end of yours?
Yeah.
And so we, got together over beers a couple times and worked it out and kind of came up with the name and understanding what the app should be. Mm-hmm. He went off and coded that. And I was just instead of working, at a Starbucks, I'd rather work elsewhere. So I happened to be at the art museum working. I just brought my laptop and I was just sitting there coding. And the first build of the app came through. He sent me the very first build while I was at the art museum. And I went out and took a picture of one of the statues and I turned it into a Picasso and it blew my mind. And I was like, oh man, so then I walked through the whole art museum and just started Picassoing all the art on the walls. I immediately went into the custom stuff. Like I didn't even want to try the basics.
Yeah.
And by the time I had left the art museum, I had completely forgotten about what I was working on. And I just became obsessed with Picasso. So we shifted gears and so that was in mid-October. We took about 2 weeks to create launch materials, which involved a video. And
it's a nice video too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one on
okay.
the, yeah. The one on the,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And we found a friend here in town. He did the music. So I think that was another big part of it was, trying to, and we used a lot of lean startup methodology, and we used especially the value proposition design to get to the content of that video. So we knew hopefully early on what the point of the app was and who might want it. And so you see that even in the screenshots, and that was kind of our first, it came right out of a value proposition design. If you've seen that from Strategizer, which is a great kit. It goes along with business model.
Yeah, I teach. Yeah, I used to teach.
Oh, okay.
At the engineering school, business models.
Oh, terrific.
And I was an associate professor. So we used a lot of it.
So this was a total lean thing. And then speaking of Blab, I had gotten on Blab really early and been on some Blabs. And so I thought I would send Brittany Metz, who's their community director. Yes. Right. I sent her a Blab. I sent her a Picasso I just feel like she's somebody who has a good sense of taste of what people are going to like. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to get her take on it. And then just in that little conversation, Ryan Hoover from Product Hunt started tweeting too. And then I sent him a picture of him.
I think I saw it there too. I think I saw it on Product Hunt.
On Product Hunt?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
And so that was all kind of accidental stuff. And I can't even remember how I started following Ryan on Twitter. It was even before Product Hunt. Right. So I even since the early days of like Usenet, I've been a big like internet pen pal guy.
Right.
You know, trying to connect with people and calling them friends, even though maybe I don't know them. I feel like we're friends now.
Yeah.
You and I, Lori, right? So,
right.
Couple things happened, and then Product Hunt said, "Hey, why don't we do a launch together?" Which blew my mind because I,
incredible.
feel like it's such an important launch area.
Yeah.
And so for that, we just started Picassoing people, and we were going to do them as artwork, of course.
Right.
And then one of their guys said, "Hey, tweet the pizza icon and pizza emoji."
Yeah.
And we'll do you as pizza. So I ended up Picassoing like 60 people into pizza on launch day. So I was like, here's this like super high tech, fastest computers in the world, and we're making people look like pizza. But
you're humanizing, right? You're humanizing the tech world can be a little bit techie.
It can be techie. It can be, I was just listening to this thing yesterday, and it just kind of described the tech world as pretty far over on the spectrum, meaning, closer to Vulcan than, the humanities. And also there's a trend going on here. So you're in Copenhagen, right? But it sounds like you're American. Am I wrong?
I am. I'm from New York originally.
Oh, okay.
I've been in Europe for 30 years. So.
Oh, wow. So did you go to so you went to secondary school there in Europe?
No, I'm old. I'm 53 almost. Yeah.
Oh wow, you look great on camera.
I look great in person too.
I bet. Yeah. So, well, I don't know what your art education was like, but
I have a design background.
Oh,
design, communication, and media. I went to tech school
terrific.
So it was one of the first tech schools in Europe. This information technology school of Copenhagen, the university.
That's awesome.
And
I'm jealous of that.
So design, it was great start. It was turn of the century, which I love to say. And I learned, I've always been in design. I was in fashion for many years. I was a model for 16 years when I was younger and worked in that whole area. So style, designing, art is also interesting. I was also involved with an artist at one point. So you get it on a deep level. I really, that's why I love it. That's why as soon as I saw it, I was like, I got to talk to the founder. I got to talk to them.
That's cool.
And share.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think the arts education here, unfortunately, in the States has kind of slipped. And they've ever since the 80s and No Child Left Behind and all this, they're cutting it and cutting it and cutting it. So millennials in Product Hunt's audience don't have the depth of art education that a lot of us, we're lucky enough to grow up with, especially not like in Europe. Right. So we found a lot of our users are skewing older or skewing European.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my goodness. Well, our time is actually just about up. I don't actually see John. John, are you here? Because we can talk until he's here. I hope. Jonathan, are you in the green room with John Webb? By chance. Let me see something on the screen, people, or Zeph. Just need to check. Because this is, I
think we lost our host.
Hey, I'll pop on until she comes back in here.
Hey, Frank. I guess we lost our host for a second there.
All right. We got John Webb coming on now. And Lori's trying to get back in. So great stuff. Hey, John, welcome. How are you? Oh, that's much better. Yeah, get away from me. Now we can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you got Darth Vader in the room too. We hear some heavy breathing or something.
Oh, I don't know what that is. I don't hear it on my end.
The scratchiness now.
Hold on one second. I want to get someone to come listen. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, Frank. Is it cool if I drop off?
Yeah, so thank you so much. Great job, Noah, and congratulations and good luck with the Picasso app. That looks amazing. I'm going to check it out.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me on here.
Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to reaching out to you again, all right? I'm going to follow you before you go here.
Cool.
But
All right. Thank you very much. So, Noah, great job.
Yeah,
Lori, great job with that interview. And we're going to start now with John Webb as soon as Lori gets back on here.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Noah.
I don't know how to change the camera. But they can see you, okay?
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think we can see you fine, John. Now we're just waiting for Lori to come back in. Lori's having I think a little technical challenge. Here she is.
Work. John, do you have headphones? Yeah, there we go. Great. All
Yeah,
right,
headphones
Frank,
up a lot.
Frank, because something is actually a little bit spotty, I've tried two different connections. It seems like it doesn't want to play nice. If I get knocked out, you will be in charge of the interview with John.
Okay, we'll do.
All right. So, and I'm sure that'll be fine.
I'll X out for now.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Hi, John. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. Okay, there's a little bit of sound issues, but hopefully, were you able to catch any of the earlier chat?
Yes.
With Noah.
Yes, I did.
And Picasso. So great. Okay, well, actually, we did a little bit of a pitch earlier, kind of telling you, those of you who are with us in the first session for launch at the start of the day, welcome. And John is the second half of the launch talk. I was talking about the art and the science of launching a startup. And we talked to Noah, whose app is an art and the science put together, and also very much on the artistic end, whereas John is more on the science end. He's actually a former rocket scientist, and he has made billions of dollars for companies, launched sections of large corporations, and done a host of things that I can't even really begin to to get into. He also has a fabulous last name, and mother and father and sister, because he is my brother. And when I'm saying he has a fabulous sister, I actually wasn't talking about me. I'm talking about our sister Tyra. So this is me bringing in the big leagues from my family as well. I could have taken all of them in here, but for this particular topic, John is going to have some knowledge to share with you. Some of you saw him on the Big Blab, and we got a lot of positive feedback on it. So John, welcome.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Lori?
Yes.
All right. Just want to make sure. All right. So you want to talk about launch?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Tell me where you want to start.
All right. Where's the best place to start?
You want me to?
Yeah. Where's the best place to start?
Okay. Well, I mean, I would say that, in the startup game, that ideas can be created, products can be created, physical plants can be created. But when it comes to creating value, no value is created unless you launch something. Because having the idea just sit on the shelf or sit amongst your friends does no good. So if you're wanting to bring that to the world, launching is the best way to do it, and that's the way you create value. And so I think today part of the talk is really to say, how do you get ready to launch? How do you know if you're ready to launch? When do you launch? And how do you make sure you launch in an effective and efficient way so you can guarantee some success? And
exactly.
I think that's the crux of the issue. Okay. So I think that for me, for people, when they're thinking about launching, I think there's typically a kind of a checklist that you need to go through to ensure that you're even ready. And I would say it'd almost be like you would try to practice a pitch deck, but amongst you and your friends, amongst you and your team, to say, can we even answer these questions? Because if you can't answer them, no one's going to answer them for you. So when people start, I think the first thing they got to do is, okay, I'm going to introduce my company, but it's like, what's our whole purpose? Why do we exist? Is it really we just want to make this device, or is there a purpose beyond the device? Because that speaks to kind of more of what you're about. And usually the company is a reflection of you, the founder, or you as a team. So even big companies usually have some type of mission, overarching mission, that they work toward. So if we took someone like Starbucks, if you ask Starbucks what their whole mission is, they would not say coffee. They would say rewarding everyday moments. And if you think about that makes more sense, because that is why Starbucks is different. It isn't about the coffee. It's about the experience of being in the cafe, of going to a Starbucks, being able to do what you do and hang and talk to people and have the Wi-Fi and everything else. And, calling sizes, different names, and all that kind of stuff. That's part of the Starbucks experience. Right. That's what they're about. And so that allows Starbucks to do a lot of different things, as opposed to just saying we're about coffee. Another one, which is one of my favorites, is Coca-Cola. If you ask Coca-Cola what their mission is, they don't say soda or Coke. They say refresh the world, which is a pretty bold statement. But that allows them to be in water. That allows them to be in juices, other refreshments that incorporate the whole Coca-Cola brand. So again, think about that for yourself. So whatever product it is, if you're coming up with a new iPhone, or if you're coming up with a new device to kind of, a new Uber, think about the mission though. What is the real mission, and how does my product idea concept serve that mission? Okay.
Exactly.
I think once you have that, you also need to show that it has a value. So is there a particular problem that you are solving? Why would someone use this? Does someone need another coffee cup? Does someone need another Uber? I mean, if they do, you got to show them why. Why is it this? So what are the differentials? What's the hook for you, so that you're not one of the many? And a lot of people kind of make that mistake. They get into an even crowded field, make it more crowded, and they really don't have any differentiation, but they kind of like that. It's like, oh, I like this industry, or I've always loved the entertainment industry, so I want to be in it. But to be in it for what purpose? So I think that you really got to think those things through, because if you can't answer those questions, you're going to be lost in the noise. Right. Now, if once you do have your idea, your concept, your mission laid out, you think you have the right concept, then you need some type of business model. So how are you going to operate? How is it going to be set up? How are you going to distribute it? How are you going to reach the customers? I mean, all those things you have to think through to find out, hey, can I actually bring this to market? And how would I bring this to market if I was so inclined, because we think the idea is that good? And I think that, and how am I going to convey the magic of my product? I want people to see my genius and why they should embrace this and why this is going to change the world. So I think you put all those things together, and then you're ready to move. Now, the other thing you need to think about is, as much as we like to think that our ideas are unique, they usually aren't. So others have thought of them. They might not have executed on them, but they probably have. Some have executed, and you need to scour the marketplace to find out if they are. There's actually a commercial out right now that I think is pretty good. It's for Cars.com, and it shows this company is going public and announcing that they're going to do these things. And this lady in the audience raises her hand and says, "Well, how's that different from Cars.com?" And the guy says, "Well, because we do this." And she goes, "No, that's just like Cars.com." And finally, he says, "Cancel the IPO," because Cars.com beat us to it. So you don't want to have that, because I'm sure a lot of people live that commercial where you think that no one's in it, no one's done it, and then someone goes into a website and shows you someone who's doing it even better than you thought it could be done. So I think you got to make sure before you go out and say, "Hey, this is new, innovative, change the world" type stuff, that it indeed is that way. Because I think you gotta make sure you know what you're talking about. But if it is, then I think you find out, okay, here's the landscape of competition. So while they might not be in it exactly, they might be in an adjacent market, or there might be a different purpose. So your positioning might be such that you're tapping into something that hasn't been used before. So I think you gotta understand your place in the world, and then how do you exploit that? How are you going to launch on that basis? And this is my niche, and this is my market. And I use that word niche. That's probably one of the most key words, because you try not to boil the ocean. A lot of people go and say, "I'm gonna own the world with my idea." It'd be good just to get, one block first, then build it out. And then if the whole world takes it, so be it, great. But I wouldn't try to boil the ocean all at once. You try to just take a little piece, get your piece of real estate, develop it, prove its worth, go from there, have some advocates, then it moves forward from there. Believe me, it'll take off. But start something that's manageable, go with something that's manageable, because again, you get back to that scale issue, and usually startups aren't scaled to really do the whole world anyway. I mean, it takes a little time to get to that magnitude. Okay. Then I think what's also going to be, just as important as the idea is going to be, what kind of team have you put together? Yourself included. Who else are you surrounded with, or who else are you networked with that can help you bring this and bring credibility? Because quite frankly, I always use the term people, especially investors. It's always a question of the jockey and the horse. Who are people betting on? And most investors bet more on jockeys than they do on horses, because you could have the greatest horse, but with the wrong jockey, you will not win that race. So they want to make sure they have the best jockey.
No.
And you have to convince them that you or your team are that jockey. And if not, who do you need to add? What do you need to do differently to get in that position? Because if you have a weak team, or if you have a team that they feel cannot execute on it, it's not worth their time and money. They're not going to put their money at risk for a team that they're uncertain of or do not have confidence in, that can bring it. As much as they may love the idea, but they'd love to give your idea to someone who they do have confidence in and go take that to the bank. So again, the team is very important, and think it through. A lot of people think, oh, I've got Jimmy on my team. He's been in food service a long time. Well, Jimmy, he worked in the back room at a restaurant. That's not exactly food service experience. Do you really have someone who is connected, can get to people in key places, people who know the ins and outs, have great insight about the industry? Those are the kind of things you need. And if you don't have that, how do you get that? And like I said, they don't have to be directly on your team, but you need to have someone, you at least have access to that kind of knowledge and insight that kind of round out your knowledge and what you guys bring to the table. Okay. Any other questions on your part before I can talk forever on this, but I just want to make sure.
I know you can. And I'm listening. I'm just, I'm always in awe when I listen to you. So I'm just paying attention, and just, if you guys have any questions, please put them in there, because this is really a great opportunity. We've had some phenomenal speakers throughout Launch It, John. Throughout the whole conference. And it's funny because some of the points you're making, you're iterating, some of them you're putting a little, more of a fine point on them, and some of them you're bringing some new stuff. So it's great. So just keep going, and I'll jump in if there's more. I
think that another key exercise that I tell people to do is, because you basically have to know where you're coming from when it comes to, hey, if I'm going to launch into the world, going back to what I was saying about that mission, but also kind of what is going to be your track as far as how are you going to be changing the world. And so what I mean by that, typically there's four different buckets, and I'm gonna name the four, and then we'll talk about each of them. So first one, it's called innovation. Okay, so keep that in mind. So there's innovation. Next one is called disruption. Third one is called resolution. And the fourth one is called affiliation. So that's innovation, disruption, resolution, affiliation. So let me talk about each one of them. So innovation is where, hey, my concept, it's something it's bringing something out that no one ever done before. It's something that's, or it's either a completely different twist on something, but it's clearly very innovative, and there really aren't any imitators out there on it right now. So an example of a company that I would say is the epitome of that would be Apple. Okay. When Steve Jobs came out with the iPhone, there were no other iPhones, and people didn't even know they needed an iPhone. All right. It was Dick Tracy type stuff that he was developing, which was great. And Apple continues to try to do that, which is hard, right? Because every next act, the bar gets set so high that even you come out with something that would normally be thought of as impressive is not so much, because it's not as game changing as maybe the last idea, but still, in it all, Apple to me is an example of an innovation based type company concept. Now, let's move to disruption. It's not that disruption isn't innovative in and of itself, but I think that the more of what you're doing is really changing the game in a given way things are done. So in my mind, something like Uber is a disruptive strategy, right? Because here you're talking about an age-old taxi limo industry, which been around a long time, and all of a sudden here comes this technology upstart and can put anybody into the cab business at a heartbeat for the minimal cost. Whereas in New York City, where we're from, it costs over $1 million to buy a medallion, which is what you need to run a yellow cab. So here are people saying, I've saved up or I mortgaged my house to buy a medallion, and somebody with a smartphone is coming in and picking up passengers and making money. That's disruption in a major way. Another one, good example when it comes to, say, taking something that was bricks and mortar and changing it to kind of streaming would be Netflix. I mean, there was a time when Blockbuster was on every corner and you had to go there, get your movie, bring it home, and then hope to God you remember the time to bring it back, or you had to pay that late fee when you brought it back, or if you brought it back too late, they said you owned it and you had to pay them for it anyway. So that was the way we watched our movies, and we thought that was great. We had a chance to see the movie and watch it as many times or rent as many times we want, until Netflix came along and then said, you don't have to leave the confines of your house. Why don't you just click on this? We'll charge you. We'll stream it to you. You have it. That's disruption. Okay. The third, resolution. So resolution is where there is a problem or there is a pain point and someone has yet to solve it. Again, it may be creative. It might even be disruptive, but the main thing is you are resolving an issue or tackling something that others have not seen fit to tackle or have been unsuccessful in fixing and solving the riddle. So again, an example of a company to me that is more resolution based is Tesla. People have said, electric cars, are they really the right way to go from gasoline powered engines? Yeah, we have an emissions problem. We can do it with batteries, but the battery life is very short. The cars don't look that sexy, on and on and on. Well, here comes Tesla, and they say, no, we have a badass looking car. It's as quick as the gasoline powered engine cars. Everything about it, we're working on battery life, so it makes that longer. We're going to fix this problem. That's what Tesla's all about. And they've gained a lot of support, and a lot of people are paying a lot of money for Tesla cars that people really didn't think they would do. So again, if that's your positioning, it's like, hey, I'm going to tackle a problem. This is what my concept is solving, as opposed to it's just kind of maybe tweaking something. I'm actually reinventing how it's done. So again, that's another way to go about, and that's what your focus should be, and that's how your story is going to be built around is, hey, I'm resolving this. That's what this is about. It's not about just creating something nobody ever had. It's about taking a problem and having a succinct solution to it. Then the fourth one is affiliation. With affiliation, it may not be that you have a new technology or that you have a brand new concept. What you do is use the power of leverage of other existing players that might be in that market, and you join arm in arm with them to make a more powerful combination or collaboration to tackle a market where it's better than you and those companies individually going after. So an example would be the airline industry. They have become masters at affiliation, because if you, for example, pick up the phone and you call, make a reservation, before you hang up that reservation, a lot of times they will ask you, by the way, do you need to make any hotel reservations? Do you need to rent a car? Why? Because typically an airline is aligned with a certain car rental agency, and they're aligned with a certain hotel. And they're going to steer you that way. So if they're aligned with Hyatt and with Avis, they're going to recommend and they're going to give you special rates for coming through them. And their hotel and their rental car company is going to give them points for you using that airline. And so together, collectively, they feel they have a better solution for you as you travel, because most people, when they travel, if they need one thing, they usually need two or three things, and they don't just go there and go back. usually they're staying somewhere. So if they're not staying with relatives, they need a place to stay. And if they're not using some type of taxi limo service, then they are renting a car. So it makes sense why you have these different groups in your cadre of adult is standard out there, but my hook is that now I'm some of the partners getting a broader spectrum of can serve the needs of the populace, then therefore it makes more sense for you to go with me. So innovation, it could be hey, this is just flat out something's been around a long time and stayed as conservative, and it's just right for us to come in here and just turn this thing upside down. Third is, here's problems that exist. I'm going to solve those problems. And the fourth is, how do I maybe get better coverage and better services by aligning myself with others who are in the same type of industry?
Okay, John, speaking of coverage, can you pop out and pop back in? Because we're losing you a little bit. So if you call back in, so
okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop you out and just I'm going to kick you out of the seat and then just call
okay.
right back in. It's because sometimes that helps.
Okay.
That we're losing you. Okay, great.
Okay.
It's hard to tell on that end. Okay, and we'll have him call back in, and then we will resume our regularly scheduled program with Launch It, Launch Talk. So for those of you who are just joining us, we are here with, he is a VC CEO. He works with startups. He is, works as an investor. He actually is the, founding managing partner of Quantum Reach, which is a kind of it's a combination of investor. I mean, you give money away and you also consult. Why don't you? Yeah, I got distracted. John, what is it that you do in Quantum Reach? Can you hear me? Nobody can hear me. Oh my goodness. Can't hear you. John, no camera. I can't hear you and they can't see you. Frank, you might need to come in. Oh my goodness.
Hey there,
You gotta
John.
be kidding me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we can't hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you at all.
Okay.
So I think we'll X you out again and ask you to call back in, please.
Yeah. Try it again and see that you're not muted, John. Oh, we should have probably never had him walk out. Try to refresh. Sorry about that. Tech issues, sadly to say. Welcome.
Yeah, you might want to hit your URL and refresh your URL if this doesn't work.
Okay. He's coming in again. All right, John, try it again. He's frozen.
John, what I would suggest is click on your URL, highlight it, and then hit enter to refresh your whole screen. Rather than just X you out, refresh the whole screen. Okay? Yeah. So click on the URL and then press enter.
The top, like go into the browser, URL, John, like at the top, and just click from the website and start from the beginning. And come in from the front page if you have to on Blab.
Put it in the chat box so you can just click on the chat.
Yeah.
So just leave this site and then come back onto this page or click on that chat actually and go into that room.
Yes.
Close the Chrome window. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay, people. Yeah, we're going to be ramping down or getting ready to go into the next session anyway. But what we have witnessed here is in Launch Talk, the first half of the talk, we spoke with Noah Rosenberg, who is from Pikazo, Pikazo app, which is this fabulous app they put together in record time. Obviously, overnight sensation with many, many hours and years and lifetime of experience. But The app is live on iTunes now, and you can really create some very interesting graphics, artworks that will be very different than what you would get through using like a photo or filter, because it actually reconfigures the picture itself. So there's some very serious scientific, thank you, really, really heady stuff, but very applicable for people who are in the room. He talked also a little bit about how he started to, the launch, and recapped, some ways of how you can use the app itself. Then we brought in John Webb, who I was trying to explain, has a great amount of experience raising money. He's raised billions of dollars for Fortune 100 companies, and also has been working as a VC and investor, helps with several startups, has been is a part of many organizations. He was recently, actually over the summer, he was visiting the royal family in England to help give some information based on the work he had been doing with creating resurgence in Detroit. So he's been on helping to use the entrepreneurial spirit to help communities resurge. What we talked about were really stages of like kind of, are you launch ready, and what that would look like, and ways to actually test if you're launch ready, practicing with your small group of peers, your team, to make sure you can answer the questions, and he gave us the different types of ways that you would really differentiate yourself as a startup. How did I do, Frank?
Very well. Great recap. Great job.
Thank you.
I'm going to pause.
Thank you. I think we are.
Good. Do you want me to pause the recording?
No, because I'm recapping.
Okay.
John,
so,
I don't know
you.
if you're able to get back in,
Thank
but
you.
hopefully maybe you can tweet him or DM him the link again, Zeph.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was supposed to.
Okay, recording's back on. I just want to say thank you to my guest, Noah Rosenberg of Picasso app. You can find Noah at NROSE or at PIKAZOAPP on Twitter. We also spoke with John Webb, and you can reach him hopefully he'll come on and say goodbye. You'll be able to reach him at
There he is.
Quantum. John, can we hear you? Still can't hear you. Okay, we're closing out. So John, can you write in the chat your email address? Because, actually, Quantum Reach, that's QUANTUMREACH.com. That's John's website. You can read more about him. Zeph, can you put that in the chat? QuantumReach.com. That's the best way to click on and hear about John. As we are getting ready to move on to the next session, Frank is going to give us I'm going to end the recording, and then he's going to just give us a preview and then move on. We can't hear John.
Yeah,
so
John, I just want to say great job. Outstanding presentation. Thanks for taking us through that.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm also in New York.
It was really great.
We can connect at some point. I just followed you on Twitter,
Yeah.
and Lori can have, and you and I can have an offline conversation. So
yeah.
I want to thank all of our viewers here in Startup Con Live, day 3, the last day. And